Really big story to talk to you about today because it has to do with Iran. This is a very important week when it comes to our country dealing with Iran. Iran says today it struck a new deal over its controversial nuclear program with the UN watchdog. The UN watchdog agency says it's going to be able to restart investigations into whether Iran is working to produce nuclear weapons. The deal apparently reached just one day before Iran and 6 world powers, including our own, meet in Baghdad to talk all about this. There are new concerns, though, that are emerging over Tehran's increasingly close ties to countries south of our border as well. So a lot to cover today. Alon Berman is Vice President of the American Foreign Policy Council. So Alon, let's start with the news of the day. There seems to be some sort of deal struck between the IAEA, that's the UN watchdog group, and Iran, although we don't have any details and nothing's in writing. So what do we make of this news, again, 24 hours before this big meeting in Baghdad?
Well, sure. Well, the Secretary General of the IAEA traveled to Tehran over the weekend to try to hammer out some sort of deal that would give the IAEA access again to Iran's nuclear complex. The agency has been trying for a long time to get at the full width and breadth of the Iranian nuclear program. They haven't really been able to do so because the Iranians have really frustrated their efforts. So this deal is a deal that the UN is trumpeting as greater transparency on the part of the Iranian regime, a greater willingness to talk. But the timing is really suspect because it looks for all the world like the Iranians are trying to trumpet some progress in terms of cooperation with the UN in advance of the nuclear talks in a way to set the stage where they could argue that sanctions should be reduced, that the international community really doesn't have anything to worry about.
You know, we're going to be concentrating a lot on this story over the next couple of days about what these talks actually look like. And that's why we really wanted to talk to you today, Alon, because you're concentrating on a different part of this story that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. And that's what Iran is up to south of our border in countries like Bolivia, a country that we really didn't think about when it comes to Iran. So you did some extensive research over the last year. Tell us what are some of the moves Iran is making in a country like Bolivia.
Well, what's been interesting is that over the last couple of years, in particular, as diplomacy has put additional pressure on Iran, as sanctions have really begun to bite, the Iranians have begun to look externally for supplemental auxiliary allies that could help them. Both ideologically and also practically. Latin America has emerged as a really big hub in that regard. And when we talk about Iran and Latin America, we tend to talk about the relationship between Iran and Venezuela.
Right.
That's part of the story. But remember that Hugo Chavez is ill. There's a presidential election coming up in Venezuela in the fall. And so the Iranians are looking at the same set of facts that we are and are thinking about how they can broaden their footprint in the region.
You know, Chavez has said he called this, or coined this, the axis of annoyance, kind of playing on this axis of evil concept that the United States has. He said, oh, we're going to create an axis of annoyance south of the United States with all these countries in Iran to be, well, you know, annoying. So, but why Bolivia, of all places? You know, why would Bolivia be a place where Iran would go and try to strike up this relationship?
Well, first off, it's, by the way, much more than an axis of annoyance because Venezuela itself and also the region at large is important for Iran in terms of trying to skirt sanctions, in terms of trying to get strategic resources for their nuclear program because Latin America is very uranium rich. And it's also, I think most troublingly, a place where there are signs that Iran is setting up a paramilitary presence, a presence on the part of its clerical army, the Revolutionary Guards. And therefore, the relationship between Iran and Latin America isn't just, opportunistic and supplemental to what Iran is doing. It's actually increasingly looking like Iran thinks about the Western Hemisphere as an operational theater, including against us.
Fascinating. Alon, we hope to have you back. We have a lot more to talk about when it comes to this, and as we're concentrating on one area for this week, we want to keep our eye on what's happening in South and Central America. Thank you very much. We look forward to having you back.
Oh, thank you.